What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike is here. I have the privilege of chatting with Kelsey Taylor, the director, writer, and producer of the new film To Kill a Wolf, coming to select Regal theaters this August and September. Kelsey, how are you today?
I'm good. I like hearing that. Coming to select Regal Theaters. That's great.
So good to see you again. Congratulations on what I guess we can call the Regal Roadshow of the film, since we met a year ago, if you can believe it, at Edinburgh.
Yeah, we've been on
And
a road show for the last year and it continues.
and since then, the film's really been quite successful on the festival circuit. So kudos to you and your team. Um, I want to jump right in because this film I've been sitting with for years. So great. This question, maybe you'll remember this from last year, but I'm always wondering because um, for my first time viewers that are here, you've crafted this really incredible reimagining of Little Red Riding Hood and this really powerful story about trauma and survival. So I have to ask, which came first, the fairy tale or the story?
I wish I had a better answer for this, but I feel like it all kind of came at the same time. Like I've always been a person drawn to adaptations. I've loved fairy tales. Like I grew up on all of the fairy tales. My bookshelf is still covered in reimaginings. Like Elle Enchanted was one of my favorite books, and Wicked and Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister. So I think that was always percolating in my DNA. But naturally, when you start thinking about Little Red Riding Hood, and if you're going to modernize it, you start thinking, okay, well, what are the modern perils for young women? And that's where the grooming came in. Spoilers, but it just seemed like a natural way to discuss like what young people need to watch out for. And when I think about fairy tales, I always think about like what are the stories that we pass down to our children? What do we tell our children to look out for? And I think in the modern world, this is hopefully a film people can share and say, hey, watch out.
And we briefly spoke last year, but I want to expand this more because we didn't really get to talk. But you have
Yeah.
four incredible performers in this: Maddison, Ivan, Caitlin, Michael. How did you bring this cast together?
A whole lot of luck went into this. I'd like to say like I sat there and orchestrated this, but we got really lucky. Let's just be honest. So Ivanmartin came to us. Adam and I had worked on a film called High Heat, which is an action comedy, and we met Ivan there and just thought Ivan made such unexpected choices as an actor. You could tell when he stepped into a scene, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen in a good way. And maybe not like the first choice you would think when you think like gruff woodsman, but there was something about him that just felt so right. And so we ended up actually doing a pass of the script with Ivan in mind once he had come on board. And Ivan very much had some great questions for us about the character. And in discussing those questions, we have created a new version of the woodsman than what had previously existed in the script. And then Maddison also came to us through Ivan, strangely enough. And even just one conversation with Maddison, I could feel that she understood this story. There was just kind of an unspoken understanding of what we were trying to tell. And I think what's so incredible about Maddison is just she does so much with so little. And people say this all the time about the film. It's like she hardly talks. She hardly talks. Like she doesn't need to, because you could just feel what she's feeling. And so much about this character is repressing the feelings that they're having, and bottling it all up. And then to complete this ensemble, Caitlin was another fabulous actress we met on the same film, High Heat, who she would step into a scene and you would just be blown away. She was amazing. And she did that for us on this film. She showed up and did her dinner scene where she's talking about grandma. And the first time she did it, it was just a mic drop. I think everyone in our crew applauded because her performance was just awesome. Um, and then to really round it out, Michael Esper was someone who came to us just on a list of actors. We're shooting, we hadn't found the right person for it. And in looking through the actors, he blew us away. He's such a talented actor. You could tell that so clearly in the roles he's done. He has such variety as well. And we had reached out to his management and like fingers crossed he'll say yes. And I remember I have a photo the moment Adam and I found out we were in a our burn speed store location surrounded by hay. And we got the thumbs up and we're like, yeah, we were so excited. We'd already started filming. So it was quite
Wow.
nerve-wracking to be like, we don't know who's going to show up to play this uncle character that's kind of really, 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 really important.
Yeah.
So super lucky that Michael was the person that said yes, because he perfectly embodies the manipulation of that character and was also a pleasure to work with. It's nice that he wasn't a creepy person while playing a creepy person.
And now you mentioned him. So you and Adam Lee, your co-producer and cinematographer, you guys are frequent collaborators. Talk
Yes.
about planning out this film, how you shaped this film. I remember you had told me you had like scouted on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and
Yes. There's a teaser we shot way back in 2018, I think.
oh
I
wow.
should send that to you, but we shot that on the East Coast. And part of that was that we knew people there. It just made sense to do it there. So we shot the teaser there and then ultimately ended up scouting that whole area, upstate New York, all the way up to the Adirondacks. Then we went out to the West Coast because I'm from Washington. We scouted Oregon, Central Oregon, West on the coast, and then we went up to Washington. I can't tell you how many cabins I've seen. And we did a lot of like, I'm leaving a note on your door. Give me a call if you're interested. Basically, like, hey, can we come see the inside of your cabin? And we're super lucky because a lot of people did respond to those notes. And we saw a lot of cabins with people just randomly responding to our notes. But that's how we met our official cabin owner, Josh Germer. He responded to one of our notes and it was hard to track him down. We actually had to get his contact info from a neighbor because we hadn't heard back. But anyways, that was in 2019. Then we came back in 2023, post-pandemic, everything got shut down, and we finally made the film. But we circled back on those same people, and we're like, hey, I don't know if you remember us. Left this note on your door. Would you have us again? Yeah, it's a long journey.
And now they need to start Airbnb-ing their property. Stay where they filmed To Kill a Wolf.
Seriously, we've been joking about that. We've been wanting to auction off a night in the woods at the Woodsman's cabin.
Which leads beautifully to my next question, because there's a real true authenticity to this film. And I love this great Instagram post that you guys had about how you talked about how a lot of the costumes were sourced from the performers' own closets to give the film, I'm going to quote the post, the raw vintage and lived in aesthetic. Was
Yes.
that a conscious choice when you set out? Was that a happy accident? Or did you seek to map that out? You love to dissect the magic. I remember you told me that. So
Yes, I love to dissect the magic. I think that's what I love about filmmaking. But it is tough to say, like, so much of filmmaking is luck. And then at a certain point, you're like, but is it luck? You also make your own luck. So in this sense, again, with the wardrobe, we got really lucky. And coming from a very logistical background, I was like, well, we have to have doubles of clothes. We have to. That's unreasonable. Like we're running around in the woods. There's snow, there's rain. You can't have one piece of clothing. Like, you have to have doubles, which then limits you to like, okay, you need to buy things that come in doubles. And so we had done some of that for like pants and things like that and socks. But our key pieces, like the Woodsman's jacket and also our vintage, our little jumper, not jumper, windbreaker,
windbreaker.
those are single one of a kind pieces. One of them I got on OfferUp. I saw it. I was scrolling through looking for things and I saw it. I was like, we have to go right now. And we hopped in the car and grabbed it maybe a week before we started shooting. So we definitely wanted that lived in feeling. And that's really hard to do unless you have a whole costume team who's willing to distress everything. But I have some funny videos of my brother out in the backyard with the pants, beating them over a fence, trying to really distress them. So some of it's luck and some of it was intentional to make sure that we had that lived in feeling.
And you had a small crew. You had, I believe, what, 15 people to put this whole piece
15,
together?
including cast, I'd say 15. There were about 10 of us
Yeah.
in the crew, and then cast kind of came and went. Ivan and Maddison were with us almost the whole time. Ivan left the last week, and it was quite a sad feeling.
Oh,
No more Ivan. Our uncle came in, so it was a different final week.
right. I there's one question that I've been dying to ask, and I forgot to ask this last year, so I'm happy to have this opportunity to bring it up again. The Bud Sloan song that frames this film, My
Yes.
Place in the Sun. What a choice, and how did you come to that song?
Um, a lot of looking because we knew we wanted it to play a pivotal part in the film, so we needed to know it ahead of time. So we had gone through, there's a great company called Marmoset, and I shouldn't tell people about it, but I should because they're great. They do a lot of vintage songs, and almost our entire soundtrack, except for the original score stuff, is all from Marmoset. They're fantastic, but we stumbled upon that song and just going through basically everything in their catalog, and it just felt so perfect. And part of it was, I think at one point the Woodsman was going to sing along with it and know the lyrics, and that's why it was really specific, and it became less so in the final film. But I do love the framing of it. And thank you for calling out the framing. Most people don't notice that it is beginning and end.
No, it's so poignant. And when, I don't want to spoil this for anyone that's going to see the film, but when you really like listen to those lyrics and watch this intense 90 minutes, and kudos how you cram so much into 90 minutes that I've seen 3-hour films that they can't actually accomplish that.
Yeah, I feel you there.
Really, and you see, like, listen to those lyrics, folks. It's really, it hits. And sticking with that idea of music, let's talk about this both beautiful and harrowing score. What were your conversations like with Sarah Baron and Forrest Christensen when you were coming together with what the sound for this film?
So again, one of those like lucky happy coincidences. We met them at a little, we actually didn't meet. My brother met them at a little film festival, and we were at the same one, just didn't cross paths with them. And later on connected through my brother again. And I love Sarah's music. And initially we brought Sarah on, and Sarah is actually, I guess now they're getting married, but Forrest is her partner in music and life. And we love that. Adam and I are partners in life and film. So we're always looking for other couples who know how to work together.
Mm-hmm.
But our first conversations with Sarah were very much about theme. I come from a musical background, so it's really important to me when you have a score that there are recurring themes that come back, and when you hear it, it means something different later on in the film. And I think our favorite films, there's usually a pretty memorable soundtrack behind it. And so that was the goal here. And it wasn't necessarily broken out by character. Sometimes it was more about the kind of the mood. And we never really like locked down concrete, like it has to be this theme for this or this. But there are definitely recurring themes that you'll hear throughout. There's something like a Woodsman one that when it comes back at the end, you're like, new perspective of this guy than when we started off. But I love the music, and I just want to make another film so I can work with Sarah and Forrest again.
Well, and the music is so great. It's almost like that fifth character because it comes in at the right times, but then you also have this really clever blend where we have like total diegetic sound. Like we're just in the woods. We hear those leaves crisping. We don't need anything. We just have the ambience, and it flows so nicely.
Yeah, it is great. That flashback sequence has spoilers. There's no sound for a large chunk of that, and it is very unsettling, I think. When the music comes out, you're like, okay, thank goodness.
Again, I think that scene might be one of the reasons why, as I said before, like I've been holding space for this film with like one of like 3 in a year. It hasn't left me a while.
Wow.
And as a result of that, because this film is so, I saw that in the year since I saw this, you've been able to establish some really powerful partnerships with Covenant House and Youth Line and Enough Abuse. How did those partnerships come about? What was that experience like working with them? What's that partnership been like?
Yeah, it's incredible. And we just brought on another one, Sapria, who also works in the sexual abuse space. And setting out on making this film, that wasn't something that was on my mind, like using this film as an educational tool. And it was over the course of the festival circuit when people would come up afterwards and say how this had affected them and how they wanted to share it with somebody else. And I was like, oh, we should do that. So after the course of meeting people and talking about it, we decided we wanted to run an impact campaign, which is traditionally done with documentaries or films that are more clearly focused on an issue and enacting change. And this film does not have like a clear call to action, like go do this, but we do want to make sure that it gets to people who should see it. And that is a tricky thing because for some people who have come up afterwards, it's quite triggering if you've experienced this. So we wanted to make sure that we could share it with people in a way that didn't make them uncomfortable. So with these organizations, we're putting on a virtual event that's actually culminating this week. If you know anybody, it's going to be online only. It'll be followed with a panel with our partners. But we do want to spread the word and make sure people can see it in that safe environment, and then also use it as a tool to educate young people. Because I think for a lot of families, this is a very hard to talk about subject, but it's something that probably should be talked about. Because I feel like a lot of times we find out about this kind of abuse after it's happened, and we should be focused on prevention as much as we possibly can be.
Wholeheartedly agree. And in that vein, and you bring up education, and I think
Yeah.
I even said, I remember when I saw this, I was like, I can't wait to show this to some of my, because I work in a high school, so I'm really hoping to get to show this to some of my students. So this was your first feature film as a director. You had done a collection of shorts and some videos. So I have to ask one of my favorite questions that I love asking directors, especially first time, coming from your background of short films. What was your biggest learning curve coming? You know where I'm going. What was your
Yeah.
biggest learning curve coming into doing your first feature? And what are the key lessons you're going to take away when you move into your next one?
Yes, great, horrible question. I think I am lucky because I did come from a below the line background, like AD work, camera work. So Adam and I had put together, not put together, but had worked on about 12 or so features together. So as far as like the actual putting together of a film, I felt very, very comfortable. I think for a lot of first time directors, that's a whole nother beast. You're basically learning how to run a marathon. So at least I didn't have to deal with that psychological and physical grind, but my biggest takeaways were in the screenwriting aspects of the film. And I feel like a lot of people have cited the film for how little dialogue there is, and a lot of that was on the day just pulling stuff out, like less, less, less. And I think in a screenplay, I would just do less, less, less. I think when people see something, they get it. But it's hard when you're trying to sell a screenplay to people because they're reading your 90 pages in 90 minutes. They're reading it very, very quickly. So they're not necessarily paying attention to every detail, where when you see that in the film, it's very obvious. So I feel like a lot of the times screenwriting, we end up overwriting it for the people who are reading it very quickly. And so I think going forward, I would probably do a draft that sells the film and then the draft that I'd like to shoot, which would just be less. Um, yeah, lot of learning, a lot of learning moments from this film for sure. And the other thing, the difference between shorts and features, I think, is I with a short, it's pretty easy to sit there and feel what 15 minutes will feel like. That's at least how I operate as a filmmaker. Is like as I'm reading the script, I'm feeling how it would feel in real time, feeling through those character arcs. Is it satisfying? And you can sit there for 15 minutes and do that. 90 minutes is a lot harder to have like the just the pure concentration to be able to feel it and also to be able to hold in yourself. Did that arc work over 90 minutes? And that's something I think I'll be spending the rest of my life trying to figure out. I Yeah. It's hard to give yourself feedback. I think I keep learning over and over that just more space is the only thing that helps. But you don't want to walk away from your script for a year and then it just becomes a very, very long process, even if that's maybe what should happen. Yeah.
And one last question. What is it that you're hoping people take away from the film after they have watched it?
Yeah, I think it really depends on who the person is and what they're coming to this with. But I would really hope that people come away feeling a little bit more compassionate about other people, that we can find common ground. I think we live in a very polarized world right now where it's really hard to see in other people the things that we share more than the differences. And I'd love for that to be the takeaway from this film, is that through other people, we can have a better life.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you so much. And for everyone that's been watching this, if you want to see Kelsey and I talk about this film a little bit more in person, alongside co-producer and cinematographer Adam Lee and the Woodsman himself, Ivan Martin, and maybe some others, you got to come and see us. We will be at the Regal Cinemas in Union Square in New York City on Saturday, August 2nd at 4 p.m. You can grab your tickets by clicking. I have the link in the notes here on the YouTube video. If you can't make that screening, this is definitely one you want to get out to. You can go to their website, to killawolf.com, or search the film on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You only have a limited time to catch this film. Again, this powerful film, as I said, it's been holding head space in my head. You can find my 5-star spoiler-free review, my perfect 5 stars, on my website, cinephilemike.com. Kelsey, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about this film again. Can't wait to see
Thanks
it
for
again.
having me, Mike. It's great to see you. We're going to see more of you. I feel like
Yes.
we could talk on and on and on. Sorry to cut this off.
No, it's totally fine. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.